Welcome back to our channel. On today's video, we're going to be looking at the top 10 worst cities for minorities. We looked at the 600 largest metropolitan areas in the United States, and we saw which of these metropolitan areas had the lowest percentage of foreign-born population. Internationally, these are the cities with the largest foreign-born populations. The cities in yellow are the ones that I've been to so far. For the most part, these are some of the most incredible, beautiful, and safe cities that I've been to. Walking around the New York metropolitan area, the second most diverse city in the entire world, was an absolutely incredible experience. New York continues to be one of my personal favorite travel destinations. Check out this German bakery. We've visited Toronto, Canada, where more than 50% of the population is foreign-born, and it is one of the safest cities in North America. Due to the media, foreign-born populations in the United States have been looked at with a bad light. However, if you look at all of the greatest cities in the world, they all have large foreign-born populations. The country of Canada being a prime example of how a place can have a massive foreign-born population and have great income and crime analytics. With more than half of Toronto's population being born in another country, the most dangerous neighborhood in Toronto would still be safer than the safest neighborhood in any large American city. Mississauga, Ontario, where 57% of the population is foreign-born, it's one of the cleanest, safest, and most beautiful cities that I've ever seen. It is the 15th most diverse city in the world by foreign-born population, with over 400,000 foreign-born residents. So take a close look at how clean and orderly these cities that we're going to look at first look like, because again, today's video is about the top 10 least diverse cities in America, and they are actually the worst places to live for minorities. San Diego, California is the 19th most diverse city on the list. About 1/4 of the population here is foreign-born. Within the United States, here is the list of the cities that have the largest foreign-born populations by percentage. Highlighted in yellow are places that have exceptionally low crime rates and are genuinely great places to live. Highlighted in red is El Centro, California, which is definitely a bad example. Now, many people in the United States believe that foreign-born populations or immigrants are a bad thing. But when we look at that list of the cities that have the largest foreign-born population by percentage, only El Centro, California resonates in a bad way. So we can see clearly that this idea that immigrants are bad cannot be backed up with real-life analytics, as the cities globally and in the United States that have large percentage of foreign-born population are actually ranked among the best cities, not the worst. Many times, foreign-born minorities are thrown underneath the bus with other American minorities like African Americans. However, when you look at large American cities, you'll notice that for the most part, the cities with the least percentage of foreign-born population just happen to be cities with majority black or large African American populations. In reality, African American cities are even more hostile to foreign-born populations than other areas. And I'm not making this up. The cities with the largest African American populations are the most hostile to foreign-born populations. Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Memphis, Detroit, Montgomery. These are the blackest cities in America. They also happen to be the cities with the least foreign-born populations. So when you look at large American cities that have large African American populations, they are definitely not in favor of foreign-born populations. The reason is most likely competition for the labor force. But we're not going to base our list today on those large African American cities with low percentage. We're going to look much broader today. Instead of including a few hundred cities, we're going to look at about 580 to 600 metropolitan areas and see which metropolitan areas have the lowest foreign-born population. What's crazy is that despite the fact I had to go through so much analytical information, the analytics concluded exactly with my personal opinion of the cities that I thought were the most hostile to immigrants. So off the list of these large cities that have low foreign-born populations, I'm only going to pick one city. Number 10 is Montgomery, Alabama. Despite being a metropolitan area of 380,000 people, only 3.8% of the population here is foreign-born. Montgomery at one point had a decently large Hispanic population, but Alabama instilled HB 56, which was an unconstitutional immigration law that not only scared away the illegal immigrants, but it also scared away the legal population because the law was based off more of profiling. The city of Montgomery suffered greatly. It lost population, houses became abandoned, businesses were closed, and the people of Montgomery were happy because they wanted to see these immigrants gone. They were willing to risk destroying their city's economy to expel this population of foreign-born people. And while the results are clear, the city of Montgomery has fallen to crap. Many African Americans debated that if the minorities were to leave the foreign-born population, that there would be more jobs and opportunities for them. However, the murder rate among the African American population has only increased dramatically since this point. Dothan, Alabama's foreign-born population is only 2%. However, I decided after knowing the city of Montgomery and Birmingham that there's no way on earth that Montgomery was going to escape this list. Kia and Hyundai both have plants in the Georgia-Alabama area, which means that there's a percentage of Korean engineers that unfortunately have to live in this region. The challenges this community faces are incredible. Koreans are the largest minority in Montgomery, Alabama, and despite them mostly being engineers and other high-paid officials of these car manufacturing brands, they're still looked at unfavorably by the population. While living in Montgomery, I couldn't tell you how many times white and black people told me how much they hated the Korean population there, even though they were mostly well-to-do engineers. They were doing absolutely no harm to the economy. In fact, they are providing the largest source of employment that this entire metropolitan area has. Number 9 is Gadsden and Anniston, Alabama, where only 2.4% of the population is foreign-born. The people of Anniston and Gadsden complain that the reason their cities are falling to crap is because large factories that were in the area and provided jobs closed. After these large factories closed, nobody could find employment and they took to crime and drugs. Poor little babies, they couldn't find another job in the United States of freaking America! Unfortunately, you're going to find that cities that have factories closing are pretty much going to dominate this list because once they lose their only source of income, these dumb people can't figure out another way to make money, and then they get mad at the immigrants. The immigrants are going to take our jobs. No, the immigrants are going to create jobs if you let them, like in the case of Montgomery, Alabama, where you have a freaking auto manufacturing plant. This is known as PMS, Poor Me Syndrome. They're afraid that immigrant communities are going to come and take their jobs because they lost their jobs. However, the inability to create jobs yourself is the main reason these areas are struggling. And well, they don't like black people here too much either. The area has a horrible reputation for hate crimes. Number 8 is Tupelo, Mississippi. Only 2.1% of the population is foreign-born in this metropolitan area, and with crime and income analytics being worse in Mississippi than most other countries, it's not really a surprise that the foreign-born population here is that low. After all, the analytics for income and crime in Mississippi are worse than a lot of the countries that people are coming from. There's a few states in Mexico that are going to have better incomes than Mississippi, And there's a handful of states in Mexico that have a lower homicide rate, so it's really not a surprise that nobody's moving to Mississippi. A good 30 or 40% of immigrants would have a better safety and income outlook in their home country than they would in Mississippi. That's freaking embarrassing. Number 7 is Muncie, Indiana. This miserable town has lost 5,000 people in the last decade. So if the people that live here are leaving, why would somebody from somewhere else want to move here? That's pretty straightforward. The same situation, jobs leaving the area, a horrendous addiction problem, and hostile attitude to outsiders. Only 2% of the population in this metropolitan area is foreign born. You would think a town that is struggling would want new blood to come in and make things better, but on the contrary, they really hate outsiders here. Anything that doesn't look like them is bad, and well, they've been glutted with their own advice on that one. I travel all across America, and this region of Indiana really is one of the saddest, most miserable parts of the country. I'm sure some factory closed down here as well at some point. That's the story for all these towns.
Factory closed and took my job.
Oh man, they took a job. They took a job.
Oh man, it took a job, man.
That took a job, man. That took a job. Oh well, man, that took a job, man. That took a job, man. Took a job, Can't get that joke about the goat eat the grass. Number 6 is Jackson, Mississippi, where only 1.9% of the entire metropolitan area's population is foreign born. And I'm sure some of these people that moved to Jackson, Mississippi from other countries are starting to realize that they made a huge mistake. Jackson, Mississippi doesn't care about their own people, so they definitely won't care about foreigners. There are only 3 cities in North and South America that are more dangerous than Jackson, Mississippi by murder rate. You are safer in 95% of Mexico's territory than you are in Jackson, Mississippi. Number 5 is Florence and Muscle Shoals in northwest Alabama, where only 1.8% of the population is foreign born. The landscape and weather in this part of Alabama would lend itself perfectly for farming, kind of like what's going on in northwest Arkansas. But well, it's Alabama and they certainly don't like foreigners in this state. Number 4 is Youngstown, Ohio, where only 1.8% of the metropolitan area is foreign born. Part of the Rust Belt, this region of the country is really just falling to crap. Industries are leaving, and so are people. Ohio is a poor, white, uneducated state, and many of the people here feel that by allowing immigrants to come and move into their communities, it will quite literally take their jobs. The state of Florida recently passed SB 1718 to scare away a lot of the people that were living in Florida illegally. Many people thought that it would be landscaping companies and other farming activities that would be hurt. Turns out that the hospitals and medical fields are suffering greatly now in Florida. Turned out that a huge percentage of the freaking doctors that were curing people. See, a lot of foreign-born population isn't exactly going to end up doing the grimiest jobs. Many times it's engineers, doctors, and people who have a lot of money that want to come to the United States. And by closing the door to this type of immigrant, it's certainly been detrimental to the United States. But Americans only want to see immigrants doing the worst jobs. Unlike Canada, Canada's approach on immigration is the complete opposite. Canada wants to attract the most educated and wealthiest immigrants. The problem is that Americans are so jealous that they don't want to see thriving, wealthy, educated immigrants in their cities. It makes them feel inferior. A very smart immigration approach is what Canada does, where they attract wealthy immigrants. But in the United States, many immigrants who are actually well-to-do keep a very low profile because they know that the moment they start looking too good, they become the target of violence from hateful individuals who simply cannot stand the notion of an immigrant being better off than them. And that is certainly true in the state of Ohio. There's somewhat of an inferiority complex that bothers them when they see immigrant communities thriving. I mean, even now in the United States, you see all these media attacks on New York City and San Francisco. They're putting them out as being some horrible cities, when in reality, when you go to New York and San Francisco, analytically, they're some of the safest cities. But if you actually go there, they're great places to visit. But the media attacks these cities because they're predominantly immigrant communities, and they just want to keep portraying these cities as horrible places because they can't really stand the notion that these immigrant communities have better safety analytics, better income analytics, stronger real estate markets. And yes, it is true that these cities are now losing population, but if you look at the analytics, the demographical breakdown of the people that are leaving these cities, it's predominantly a white population that's leaving. The Asian communities certainly aren't leaving these cities. In fact, as the white population moves out, they're buying them up. Look at Brooklyn, New York. It used to be a bunch of Italians. Now those Italians on Staten Island or in Spring Hill, Florida, and they're mad and upset that Brooklyn, New York turned into China. But nobody forced you to sell. It was your decision to leave. Now all these Italians are crying about how they lost Brooklyn. They're the ones that moved out. They're the ones that sold the real estate, and now the real estate appreciated even more and they can't buy it back. Number 3 is Monroe, Louisiana. Only 1.6% of the population here is foreign born in this miserable metropolitan area. They have the highest crime rate of any middle-sized city in the country. Why the crap would you want to move there anyways? They are struggling to find good workers here, and people are afraid to move to this area. When they do a little bit of research on the area, they find out how bad the crime is, they find out how horrible the racism is. They won't touch this city. It has a bad reputation for being dangerous, and nobody wants to move here. They need the people, but the people are afraid to go there. Louisiana has some of the worst analytics of any state, so it's no surprise that immigrant communities are going to stay far from this horrible region. Now keep in mind, we're dealing with nearly 600 metropolitan areas. The ones we're talking here are definitely the parts of the countries where you definitely don't see too many outsiders. Number 2 is Charleston, West Virginia, where less than 1.5% of the population is foreign born, and with good reason. West Virginia as a state has the worst percentage of foreign born population at nearly less than 3% for the entire state, so it makes sense that their large cities are going to be complete crap holes if nobody's willing to move here. The geography of West Virginia really challenges the growth of this state, and the people's backwards and isolated mentalities definitely don't make it any better. While eating at a Chinese buffet in West Virginia, I witnessed police officers extort the restaurant owner for $500 cash to avoid an immigration raid on their company. A customer randomly became disgruntled, threw food on the floor, and then called the cops on the business owners. If you're an immigrant, I don't even recommend you travel through West Virginia. Drive around that state. Funny that I mention it. I have some white friends that travel a little bit further north than West Virginia, and even they drive around the state. It saves them 4 hours to go through West Virginia. They would rather not drive through West Virginia. Number 1 is the Huntington-Ashland metropolitan area that spans the states of Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia. Where these 3 states meet, you only have 1.2% of the population that is foreign born, making it the least diverse metropolitan area in the whole country. This metropolitan area also has another extreme analytic. It has the highest overdose death rate in the entire country at over 110 per 100,000. So here's a metropolitan area that has the lowest percentage of foreign-born population of any metropolitan area in the country, and they also have the biggest drug problem. Ironically, many times when people talk about the drug problem, they want to blame the foreign-born population. It's immigrants' fault, right? I think it's time for a lot of these towns to stop blaming other people for their problems. Their economies are destroyed. Their cities are abandoned and waiting to be demolished, to be forgotten, really. They're losing population. Addiction is out of control. Crime is hideous in most of these cities that we talked about. But they don't want to let somebody else come in and make something better of what could be a great place to live. Stop crying and complaining about how the immigrants are taking your jobs. Hey, you took this land from the natives. It's only right that at some point somebody takes it from you as well. All right, now, those are the top 10 least diverse and clearly the worst place for foreign-born, aka immigrants, aka minority populations.